Additional information from Grigori Grabovoi on the topics of the seminar. The doctrine of Grigori Grabovoi about God, the creation of eternity. The doctrine of Grigori Grabovoi about God, control in the field of eternity. Belgrade course of seminars with 22 free mode devices PRK1U, 28 February 2020. Today I would like to add something to the topic of my seminar, My Doctrine of God, Creation of Eternity. On this topic I would like to consider the principle of creating eternity in those local processes that directly surround a person and other living beings, as well as the interaction of these processes with the internal structure of a person with his body to ensure eternal life for everyone. Considering the air near a person, one can see certain similarity in the functioning of the soul, spirit, and consciousness. I mean, well, in the general principles of the creation of eternity, one can find similarities. Well, of course, to consider through consciousness the action of the spirit in a remote part of the space of perception, where the action of the soul was in the previous period of time and also exists in the future period of time, then for the perception at the level of thinking, this action is similar to the movement of air. And when we talk about the creation of eternity, for example, for the soul, spirit, and consciousness, this is, as it were, to a certain extent, the internal process of a person, and to transfer this process to the external environment. When the external environment provides eternal life, it is possible by focusing on your physical body. That is, you can create eternity by means of various combinations in the actions of the soul, spirit, and consciousness through various actions or combinations of these actions, as it were, of the soul, spirit, and consciousness that is in your perception. And then this structure of eternity on level of the same type of perception of the action of spirit and air to transfer to the external environment. Technologically, it is necessary to imagine, therefore, the space of perception in which the work will be carried out. Select in this space the sphere of action of the soul, spirit, and consciousness. In this case, for example, there can be 3 spheres of action, that is, 1 sphere of the soul, the 2nd of the spirit, the 3rd of consciousness. And in order to create eternity, with the help of these areas of control, it is necessary to combine actions of controlling clairvoyance and controlling forecasting. That is, when we talk about controlling clairvoyance, we primarily mean actions in, for example, the current or past time. And although controlling clairvoyance may affect some future sections of time, nevertheless, they are separate special bases for controlling forecasting. Therefore, when we combine these 2 controls in 1 sphere, we go over to the structure of lack of time, that is, control over time is carried out within the sphere of consciousness. That is, in fact, we now have 4 spheres in this control structure, where the 4th sphere is the combined control structure through control clairvoyance and control forecasting at the same time. And the transition of these 3 control structures, namely the control of the soul, spirit, and consciousness, is carried out through this 4th sphere into the external reality, into physical reality. And in this way, it is possible to have distinct elements of eternity in the structure of the external environment, for example, air. That is, on the one hand, it looks like the normal air, but if you look closely with the control of clairvoyance, you can see these structures of eternity that are in static or in small dynamics. And in this way, you can have absolutely clean air, not contaminated with some external advice components. That is, you just need to select these three areas of control, soul, spirit, and consciousness, and transfer them through the sphere of controlling clairvoyance and forecasting into the external environment. And at the same time, as can be seen in this technology, we do not consider, in fact, the very creation of eternity with the help of three components, for example, soul, spirit, and consciousness, but we believe that. It is clear that eternity can be created with these components. This already follows from one simple fact, that soul is eternal, and the contact of soul with spirit is also an eternal action. And in fact, statics of consciousness of any person is also eternal. That is, what connects spirit and action of soul. Therefore, precisely this element of consciousness is eternal. And the eternity of spirit lies in the infinity of its every moment action. Well, that is, if you look more closely at these three control systems, then each of them, in fact, has elements of eternity. If soul is initially as a whole complexly eternal, then the two other parts, parameters, they are eternal in dynamics. And thus, having singled out, having learned to control on an external environment close to the physical body, for example, air, well, from the point of view of giving this environment, air, such qualities that are necessary to ensure eternal life, to ensure absence of diseases, you can see that the same method can be used to control not only on air, but also on any other environment, like liquid, some kind of solid elements, in any system of reality external to the physical body. But if, for example, you are considering a solid body, suppose from the surrounding world, then you just need to add sphere of consciousness into the sphere that contains controlling clairvoyance and controlling forecasting. Then, if you are located somewhere near some kind of solid object, you enter it into the norm of ensuring eternal life. So let's try to repeat it in our own words, maybe just till this part. So I'll continue, and the next thing is to bring the information of eternal life not just to the air, but also to solid, to liquids and solid material bodies in the external world. Therefore, I repeat, but if, for example, you are considering a solid body, suppose from the surrounding world, then you just need to add sphere of consciousness into the sphere that contains controlling clairvoyance and controlling forecasting. Then if you are located somewhere near some kind of solid object, you enter it into the norm of ensuring eternal life. This technology also can be used for normalization of external environment if, for example, this environment consists some infectious, virological or bacteriological components. In this case, control can be used, for example, highlighting the sphere of controlling clairvoyance, controlling forecasting, and, for example, consciousness, precisely for solid objects of the external environment. Therefore, you can see that if from your physical body you draw a ray of consciousness between these spheres, then you can normalize physical environment not only near your physical body, for example, with a radius up to 20 meters, but generally a very large distance, for example, capture from 1000 meters or more. And at the same time, when you work, for example, with the rays of consciousness from your physical body, these control waves themselves basically work somewhere in the following version, for example, up to 20 meters, up to 1000 meters, then above 1000 meters. A ray that is coming from a physical body or two rays are considered. And they begin to separate sphere of control clairvoyance and control forecasting to separate from each other, or sphere of consciousness and controlling forecasting. And so when the ray passes between these spheres, the normalization of the external environment takes place. The following control periods should be considered: first impulse up to 20 meters. The second is an amplified impulse with an effort of the will up to 1000 meters. And if you intensify the control, or say use the PRK1U device, simply increase personal concentration, then it is possible to capture over 1000 meters in space. And for example, if we are talking about some well-known elements, meaning if we need to protect ourselves from, for example, coronavirus found in China, here we can simply distinguish them locally by the name and as well separate these three spheres, direct the rays to this element so it does not exist where you are located. And in principle, in this way, it is possible to help at any distance.
Awesome.
So the following questions and answers are in correlation or relation to the text above. So I think it would be very helpful for us to use this technology to read them too. Should I continue, or would you like to continue?
Whatever you'd like, I don't mind going, whatever you prefer, Jan.
Okay, then please start with the questions and answers for this technology.
Translator, and how to specifically target the coronavirus. GP Grabovoi. And for this it is necessary, within a radius, for example 20 meters, to highlight the information of the virus and direct these rays directly at it. That's all. Thus ensuring a certain safety pole, as it were, in motion. Sorry, my computer. I'm sorry, you might have to take over again, Jan. I've lost my page. My computer's gone weird. Sorry.
Ah, okay. So then I will continue. Doesn't matter. Question: can these rays pass between all spheres, not only between the third and the fourth? Answer of Grigori Grabovoi: between the sphere of control clairvoyance and control forecasting, and between the sphere of control forecasting and consciousness. For example, two rays coming from the physical body, and in principle, with these two rays, it is possible to be protected, for example, from the coronavirus. However, question: where is the ray going to? Simply into the space? Answer: yes. If simply into the space, then yes, in a complex way, as if in a radius of 20, 1000 and above meters, there is normalization. If you direct specifically, for example, to coronavirus, which was found in China, yes, then it will work as a protection. There will be neutralization of the coronavirus then. Question: and how to specifically target the coronavirus? Answer by Grigori Grabovoi, and for this it is necessary within a radius of, for example, 20 meters to highlight the information of the virus and direct these rays directly at it, and that's all. That is, thus ensuring a certain safety pole, as it were, in motion in the development of future events. It must be kept in mind that the norm should be generally universal. Question: what does generally universal mean? Meaning everyone does for himself and therefore for all? Answer: including necessarily not only the external environment, but also everything that is inside the body itself. That is, in accordance with the technology of precisely ensuring eternal life, the body at every next moment in time, it must be healthy. Therefore, with such creation of eternity in the external environment, it is imperative to simultaneously conduct concentration to ensure eternity inside the body, the organism itself. And for such method of control, which I am now giving, it's enough to concentrate when conducting a control on the external environment. It's enough to simply concentrate on the levels of the lungs and the neck, the pulmonary respiratory system and neck, precisely the neck, so to speak, whole as a material structure. So I'll make a pause in the text and let's go through it once again with our own words.
Fine. Thank you.
Okay. So I will repeat. And for such method of control, which I'm now giving, it's enough to concentrate when conducting a control on the external environment. It's enough to simply concentrate on the levels of the lungs and the neck, the pulmonary respiratory system and neck, precisely the neck, so to speak, whole as a material structure. And you can pay attention. Here is unfolding a very new principle which I did not give out before in control. It is precisely the subject creation of eternity. When eternity is created in any element of external reality, it is enough to concentrate on 2 or 3 elements inside the body, on organs or systems, and at this moment, the assurance of eternity to the body itself, to the physical body. And now I would like to add even more information to the topic of the seminar, my doctrine about God, controlling in the field of eternity. Here, simply from the point of view of dynamic control, I just would like to add an element connecting the spheres I have already designated 4 spheres of control, what the control consists of, which means that these 4 elements, 4 spheres, that is, and the combined sphere of controlling clairvoyance and controlling forecasting, can be used from the point of view of the control over the time and space. The first element is about stretching the time in the past to ensure that there is more time in the past to normalize the events. Well, for example, there was some kind of event in the past that needs to be improved or normalized. It takes time. For this event of the past, which needs to be improved, it seems to stretch out in time, and then in the current time you have more time to correct these events of the past. Because in this control, if we normalize the event in the past, that means then there will be no damage from in the current time, and accordingly there will be no damage in the future time. Here, in order to stretch time in the past, it is necessary to place the sphere of consciousness behind the sphere of soul, that is, in the negative axis, as it were to the left of the control axis. And since control takes place precisely in the field of eternity, it is possible to distinguish from the generalized sphere of control clairvoyance and control forecasting precisely the action of control clairvoyance. That is, it is necessary to highlight, since control takes place in the field of eternity, then from the combined sphere of control clairvoyance and control forecasting, it is necessary to distinguish the action of control clairvoyance and just make the time in the past more rarefied, more extended, directing this action between the spheres of consciousness and the soul. Okay, let's talk about this one a little bit more detail. And the next control in the field of eternity, in the sphere of the soul, located in the infinite future, in the region of the infinite future, and the rays that go through this sphere, they increase through the sphere of consciousness and fall on the physical body, thereby making the physical body eternal. Thank you very much for your attention. All the best. I wish you all harmonious eternal life.